So inshallah ta'ala, we want to speak about today the importance of knowledge in Islam. And what I used to do, whoever was here last year or the year before that, was I used to just give lectures and just sit down and then just talk for like 45 minutes to an hour. And I found that to be, I thought that was engaging. I used to think that was very engaging and that people found it very interesting. But then I myself, having not gone to a Western university to study, like my bachelor's, I didn't kind of know. We just kind of opened books and just read, right? Because it was like an Islamic degree. But then I went and started a master's, and I saw how people use like PowerPoint and things like that, and I thought it's really, really beneficial, and it brings alive. What we'll do is speak about this topic and make it somewhat interactive, inshallah ta'ala. Okay? So we're going to be going on to the next slide, inshallah, and whoever's proposed to do what I've asked, inshallah, they can start. Okay, inshallah. So, why is this topic important? Ilm, knowledge. Now, before we even speak on this topic, what is knowledge? Like, if I was to say to someone, knowledge, what is knowledge? Knowledge encapsulates many different things. And as the ulama of usul al-fiqh, the ulama of those who study the origins of the Sharia say, they say al-ilmu huwa ma'rifatu shay' ala ma huwa alayh, or ma'rifatu shay' ala ma huwa bihi, which is to understand things for what they truly are. So for people to understand things, or for an individual to understand something, the way it should be understood. So what you understand from that is the opposite of knowledge is going to be jahl, ignorance, isn't it? So if I, for example, look at this particular thing and I say that this is a mobile phone, then clearly I don't have knowledge of that particular thing because this is a laptop, it's not a mobile phone. So this topic is important because Islam holds education, ilm, knowledge, in very high esteem. And the first surah which was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was Surah Al-Alaq. Okay, and the first words that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam became a prophet with was the words Iqra. Okay, and when Jibreel alayhi salam came to him, okay, at the outskirts of Mecca, and revealed these words, he said Iqra. What did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam say? He said Ma ana biqari. I can't read, because what he understood the word Iqra to mean was to read like A, B, C, D, to spell out, to read. And as we know, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a prophet who was ummi, was not somebody who could read or write. And the Arabs, generally speaking, prior to Al-Islam, were people who couldn't read or write in the first place, which is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about them in Surah Al-Jumu'ah, هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا. He's the one who sent to the people who don't know how to read or write a prophet. So Allah then says, اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم. اقرأ, okay, read, and your Lord is the most merciful, the most gracious. الذي علم بالقلم, the one who taught with the pen. So Islam, from the very beginning, from the outset, gives us, or shows us, or tells us that there needs to be an emphasis on learning, because Allah tells us the way in which He teaches. He has taught His slaves, and He says, علم بالقلم, that the way in which we understand something is by way of the pen, not chat GPT. So inshallah ta'ala, this is how a person understands something, to study it. And thus from the offset we are informed that knowledge is important. And that's why Allah says in the Quran, قُلْ هَلْ يَسْتَوِي الَّذِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Say, are those people equal, those who know, to those who don't know? The person who has more knowledge is not like the person who has no knowledge at all. This is a famous hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which speaks about the importance and the virtues of knowledge. Its virtues, its benefits. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu, and he is speaking about specifically Islamic knowledge, but obviously we know that all knowledge has virtues. But the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam here says, "Man salaka tariqan yatlabu fihi ilma, or yaltamisu fihi ilma." Whoever seeks a path, whoever treads a path, seeking from it knowledge, سهل الله له طريقا إلى الجنة. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make his way to Jannah easy. This is not the particular, it's a different word of the hadith I'm quoting. And then he says, وَإِنَّ الْمَلَائِكَ لَتَضَعُ أَجْنِحَتَهَا لِطَالِبِ الْعِلْمِ رِضًا بِمَا يَصْنَعُ. And the angels, okay, cover their wings around the student of knowledge in pleasure of, or with pleasure of what he's doing, okay. And then he says, وَإِنَّ الْعَالَمِ, okay, or وَإِنَّ الْعَالِمِ لَيَسْتَغْفِرْ لَهُ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ. Indeed, the scholar of the religion, everything in the dunya, okay, everything which is, all things in the dunya, make dua for him, okay. مِنَ وَالْحَيْتَانِ فِي الْجُوفِ الْمَاءِ, or فِي الْجَوْفِ الْمَاءِ عفوا, even, fish in the sea, okay. وَإِنَّ فَضْلَ الْعَالِمِ عَلَى الْعَابِدِ كَفَضْلِ الْقَمَرِ لَيْلَةِ الْبَدْرِ عَلَى سَائِرِ الْكَوَاكِبِ. And indeed, the virtue of a scholar compared to just a worshipper is like the moon on the night of Badr. Okay, the night of Badr is the middle of the month, because the Islamic calendar, okay, follows the lunar. We follow the lunar months in the Muslim calendar, and when the 13th, 14th, 15th of the month is the nights of Al Badr, right, where the sun is at it, or where the moon is at its brightest, basically. And it stands out, the moon stands out compared to all other celestial bodies in the sky on those days. That is the comparison between like a scholar of the religion to what do you call it, in comparison to just a normal worshipper. And then he goes on to the Prophet who said, وَإِنَّ الْعُلَمَاء وَرَثَةُ الْأَنْبِيَاء, that the scholars are the inheritors of the prophets. وَإِنَّ الْأَنْبِيَاء لَمْ يُوَرِّثُوا دِينَارًا وَلَا دِرْهَمًا إِنَّمَا وَرَّثُوا الْعِلْمَ فَمَنْ أَخَذَهُ أَخَذَ بِحَظٍ وَافِرٍ. Indeed, the prophets did not inherit, okay, gold coins, gold nor silver. Indeed, they inherited knowledge. So whoever takes from that takes from something which is of a great share, i.e., knowledge itself. So, knowledge is very important. And even the great Imam Shafi'i, speaking about other areas of knowledge, said, for example, في شأن الطب, he said regarding medicine, لا أعلم علما بعد الحلال والحرام أنبل من الطب إلا أن أهل الكتاب قد غلبونا عليه. He said, I do not know of a science after what is lawful and what is not lawful, i.e. halal and haram, which is greater than medicine, except that the people of the book have prevailed us over it. Meaning that in the time of Imam Shafi'i, when he's talking here, he's saying that many people in the Muslim Ummah at that time, the very early Muslims, they were studying, you have many schools of hadith, many schools of fiqh. So Imam Shafi'i is saying that after this knowledge, the best knowledge that a person could study is the knowledge of medicine. Now, why do you think Imam Shafi'i said that medicine is so virtuous? He said medicine is virtuous not because of the salary a person gets, but because of the benefits a person gets from medicine, from studying medicine. You help the sick, you help the needy, you bring a person back to full health after they've been in a state of sickness. And that's similar to like what the scholar of the religion does, but with the heart of an individual. Now, obviously, the statement of Imam Shafi'i is not wahi, it's not revelation from the Quran or the Sunnah, but this doesn't just extend to even medicine. It could be any kind of knowledge which is beneficial, which is virtuous. So any kind of knowledge, branch of knowledge which is beneficial and virtuous, a person should study that because a lot of benefit can come out of that. So the quote Imam Shafi'i indicates the reason why medicine was deemed so virtuous was because the benefit it brings to society. So with what you're studying, I think that people need to ask themselves, after you think about, am I going to get a good job? Am I going to make money? Am I going to do X, Y, Z? I think the person needs to ask themselves, what benefit am I bringing to society? Am I going to actually be benefiting society with what I study? Or is it just about making money and khalas and that's it? Okay? Because there's certain things that you could do which will make you a lot of money, but they might not be ethical. So a person needs to ask themselves, is what you're studying going to bring value to a society? So in the past, knowledge was accompanied with a set of values. When you saw ilm in the past, it wasn't just, when we went to university, it wasn't just to get a job. In fact, the teachers were people that were poor in the past. Teachers were people that were rich. What's happened today in the modern world is education has been turned into a kind of industry. There's an industry of education where you get all the students in, make them pay their fees, you keep the college alive, you keep the certifications valid, okay? You make it a criteria to enter into certain industries and so on and so forth. So there's an institute of learning. There's an industry of learning. And what happens is, because people want to, get a job, they all go to university. Whereas if you were to go to university 100 years ago, 200 years ago, you would find people, number one, that were generally speaking from the upper class, but you would find people who want to learn. Now we have this thing of the person comes to university and he doesn't even study, he just does it all night before the exam, and Assalamu alaikum, tries to pass. Whereas in the past, people came with an attitude of wanting to learn. They came with in the headspace that I'm here to help society. I'm here to teach people what they don't know. I'm here to make society better. I'm here to learn for that reason. Not simply, I'm here because I have to do this to get a job kind of thing. So when it comes to having a legacy and making an impact, it's got to be more. There needs to be more than simply, I'm just here to kind of get the job kind of thing. So if you aim to be the best in your craft, you'll be successful. However, if you simply aim to make money, you might not reach the outcomes you desire. So if you just want to be an engineer, just want to be a doctor, then khalas, you might be successful. But what about if you aim to be the best doctor in your field, and you aim to solve certain mysteries that can help mankind? If you do that for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you'll be rewarded. You'll be rewarded and you'll have a legacy. So sometimes you need to think out of the box. Maybe, for example, some of you here are studying engineering or other kind of STEM branches of science or whatever. Think about how you can actually bring about a change in your industry, or a change that will actually help Muslims, for example, or even just help the world in general. Not simply, I'm just here because my mom told me to come here, or I'm here because my dad told me to come here. Have an aim greater than that, and you'll reach heights that are even greater than you expected. And more will come out of that in terms of even your job and your money than if you just had the aim to come to, pick up your salary and khalas, salaam alaikum, I go home and I forget about everything else. So now that we've spoken about the importance of knowledge, I just need to get some water, inshallah ta'ala. Now that we've spoken about, some of the values or some of the virtues of knowledge, does anyone know this book?
Yeah.
Who said yeah? So what book is this?
Right, it has Siyar Alam al-Nubala.
Siyar Alam al-Nubala. Okay, who's it written by? Tell me about it. Give me a brief synopsis of the book.
I just know a little bit about it. It's for Imam al-Dhahabi. And he wrote about everyone after the Prophet, so all the companions.
Excellent.
And then the scholars and all what they
great,
used to do.
Excellent explanation. So this book that you're seeing here was written about 700 years ago, 800 years ago, and was written by the great scholar called Imam al-Dhahabi, Shamsuddin al-Dhahabi, okay? He was a scholar of hadith who lived in Sham and was of Turkmani descent, okay? And he wrote this book, which is the biographies of every kind of famous, not famous in the sense of 15 minutes of fame or Love Island fame, not that kind of fame. A person who gained good notoriety because of something that they achieved. And it was the lives of pious people and scholars and eminent individuals from the time of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ until now. And as you can see, there's about maybe 20 volumes or something like that, right? Depending on what print that you get. And it starts from the Prophet, the Prophet's companions, all the way until his time. So let's say you wanted to find out about Imam al-Bukhari, you'll find it in this book. If you want to find about Imam Muslim, you'll find it in this book. And this book is amazing because he writes, there's more than 20,000 biographies. It's tens of thousands of biographies, right? From people all over the Muslim world, he writes about their biography. So you can read about this particular person, about where they studied, where they were born, their good side, their bad side, and so on and so forth, right? And if this was written 700 years ago, a question needs to be asked. What were his sources that he even got it from? What other books did he couldn't have just said, oh, Assalamu alaikum, I just want to write something about. He had to have other sources. So what it shows you is the breadth of knowledge that must have been around in the Muslim Ummah at that particular time. The depth of the knowledge that was around, that he could write such a book because he had to compile it from other sources, right? So this is a book, okay, is a significant work in Islamic literature, authored by the renowned scholar Al-Dhahabi. This book is a biographical dictionary that provides detailed accounts of notable figures in Islamic history, including scholars, poets, and leaders. Al-Dhahabi meticulously compiled information about their lives, contributions, and the historical context of how they lived. And he's a great scholar of hadith. He's a student of the Sheikh, Ibn Taymiyyah, and he himself had, you can't go to any reputable Islamic library and not find this book. And you can find it, you can even just buy it for about £300 online anyway, this book anyway. We then move on to this person, okay? Who's heard of Averroes or Ibn Rushd? Who's heard of Ibn Rushd? Anyone heard of Ibn Rushd? You must have heard of Ibn Rushd. Who's got any friends or knows anyone who's studying in Al-Madinah right now, the Islamic University of Al-Madinah? Does anyone know anyone who's studying in the Islamic University of Al-Madinah as of now? Put your hand up if you know. You know someone? Okay, so if they're going to enter the faculty of Sharia, where you study comparative fiqh, they're going to study a book written by this man. This man was a great scholar of Islam, Ibn Rushd. Now, Ibn Rushd is a great scholar of fiqh, Islamic law. He even studied philosophy. Obviously, we know that from an Islamic perspective, we don't, generally speaking, indulge in philosophy, but he wrote in philosophy, fiqh, history, and medicine. He was a doctor as well as a scholar of Islamic law, right? And one of the great books he wrote that they study in Al-Madinah is Bidayatul Mujtahid wa Nihayatul Muqtasid. Amazing book of comparative Islamic law. Anyway, in the Western canon, they call him Averroes, but we call him Ibn Rushd. And he wrote this book in medicine, which was studied up until the 18th century. It's called Al-Kulliyat. Al-Kulliyat, okay, can almost mean like general principles, right? So it was called Al-Kulliyat fi al-Tib, like the general principles of medicine, and Romanized, it was called as, the general principles of medicine, or the collegiate, okay, was a book which was a significant medical text written by the renowned Islamic, of course, philosopher, he was a scholar of Islam, and physician Ibn Rushd, also known as Averroes, in the 12th century. This work is notable for its comprehensive approach to medicine, synthesizing various medical knowledge or pieces of medical knowledge from ancient Greek sources, particularly Galen, and integrating it with Islamic medical practice. Now, where was Ibn Rushd from? Does anyone know where Ibn Rushd was from? He was from Spain. So he was a Spanish Muslim scholar. Does anyone know about Muslim Spain here? Some people must know about Muslim Spain. Yeah. Everyone's just being quiet, and this is another thing when it comes to ilm. And when I spoke about the attitude of people coming about knowledge, when you watch non-Muslims do conferences, when they ask the crowd, everyone puts their hand up to, people want to kind of engage. We should engage in Islamic education. It's not this dead body that we're trying to bury and wash and get rid of. This is something that we're trying to bring alive. So when you watch conferences of scientists, and when there's people, they come together to speak about these things, people are clapping, people are watching, people are trying to engage. It's not something that your mom's forcing you to go to the Quran school, and if you don't, you're going to get beaten. So we should engage. If we don't know, let's say, okay, who's Ibn Rushd? I don't know. Let's engage. Not just sit here as if this is a kind of khalas. So Ibn Rushd was from Spain. Spain was under Muslim control, was Muslim for 8 centuries. So for 800 years, Spain was a Muslim country, fully Muslim. The Spaniards themselves became Muslim. Okay, it wasn't an Arab occupation of Spain. The Spanish population became Muslim, assumed the Muslim names, and wrote on many kind of different areas of knowledge. Now, one of the things about Muslim Spain was they wrote on different areas of Islamic law and medicine. When the Reconquista happened, which was when the the Christian Spaniards fought from southern France and took over about 4 or 5 centuries. They took over Spain bit by bit until they kicked out the last Muslims in Grenada in 1492, if I'm correct. They burnt all the Muslim books. We have so many of them, but they burnt all the Muslim books. But they kept the books of medicine because the Muslims were masters of medicine. And as you can see here, it's a Latinized version of the Arabic version here. And what you can see here is not the Arabic version of this book, but this is a manzuma. Does anyone know what a manzuma is in Arabic? A manzuma. If I say to you, something is a manzuma, what's a manzuma? You know what it is, right? When something is a nathar, and you have a nathar and you have a manzuma. 2 different types of prose in Arabic. A nathar is just general writing. A manzuma is poetry. So this is a stanza. These are 2 stanzas of poetry. Okay, and so this is how poetry. Arabic is written. When you write poetry in Arabic, you write it with a bait. Bait meaning a line. So the first line you can see is what you call shatr al-bayt, the first half. Then there's a gap and the second half. So one line is a bayt shi'r. It's a line of poetry. Bayt meaning line, not bayt as in house. So when they write the poetry, and for it to sound like a poem where it rhymes and so on and so forth, you have to create the gap. Now, generally speaking today, for those who want to study Islamic knowledge, you know that there's different poems that you can study and memorize if you want to understand fiqh, hadith, usul al-fiqh and so on and so forth. You might have heard them online or so on and so forth, right? Can you imagine that there were even manzumat, poems, teaching you medicine? So here is a manzuma teaching you medicine, and because of the fact that we as Muslims believe we've got this kind of inferiority complex where we believe that everything good is written in the Latin script and everything bad is written in the Arabic script, we have an internal inferiority complex. Whereas what we don't understand is that the Muslims were the leaders in medicine, and Arabic was the language of medicine. And when the Muslims would write on topics of medicine, they would even start saying Bismillah. You wouldn't even think of that now. Medicine has become something which is a-religious and is fully empirical, and there's no mention of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at all. With the Muslims, no. We understood that medicine is empirical, and we understood that obviously, if you're going to amputate a leg, it hasn't got it's not like praying, but you still start with the word Bismillah. And this is what we've lost, you see. So when you speak about knowledge and contributions that Muslims gave in the field of knowledge, this is what you have. This is what you have. And then you've got this great book here, Fath al-Bari, and this is another branch of hadith, the branch of ilm. This is now the branch of ilm known as al-hadith, the study of the prophetic tradition. Now this book, Fath al-Bari, is a famous commentary on Sahih al-Bukhari, which is known as, Bukhari Sahih, which is a collection of the Prophet ﷺ's sayings. Now, this book was written about 500, almost 600 years ago, and it is the greatest work of hadith, or the greatest explanation of this book. There's over 100 explanations of this book, but this one stands out historically, known, written by Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, the great scholar of hadith. Now, why am I showing you different things? Because in Islam, we didn't have this thing that we have now of religious studies, secular studies. Scholars who wrote these books also wrote in medicine. Scholars who wrote these books also wrote in mathematics. So what I'm trying to say to you is that just because you're studying your subject, it doesn't mean that you can't go and learn Islamic studies. It's not a thing where you're stuck, khalas, I have to just do this. No. You can go out of your, you can go out of your field and learn other fields, The concept of being a polymath, being a master of many different things, is something which is lost, right? So this is obviously a book which is maybe 20 volumes, very large book, which has within it so many different kinds of, different commentaries and so on and so forth. Just trying to show you the breadth of Islamic knowledge. And I can never give such a topic its right, because obviously, the field of Islamic knowledge is so vast. But unfortunately, many of us Muslims, we have issues with our religion, unfortunately. Many of us sometimes practice a very cultural Islam, an Islam which is rooted in our culture, and we think that everybody else's Islam is like that. So I always give an anecdote of what happened to me when I went to a Russell Group University in Bloomsbury to give a talk. I shan't name their names. Anyway, I went there and I spoke about a topic, and after the topic was done, I was sent messages by certain members of the audience in pure anger at what I had spoken about, vociferous anger. And they spoke to me about X, Y, Z, and they said, why don't you speak about this, and why don't you talk about this thing in the Muslim world, and this thing in that country? And the answer I gave was, look, you're speaking about the country that you come from, and your country has this particular social problem. That's not a Muslim problem, that's a you problem. That's your country's problem. The other countries don't have this issue. This issue is not found in, for example, other countries. That's a problem that's in your culture. I don't come from your country, I'm a Muslim, but Islam is not you and your culture. Islam is for the entire Muslim Ummah. But you are thinking that I'm supporting your cultural practice when I don't even know the culture that you're practicing. So one of the things we have to understand is we have to understand Islam is not something which is in your village and only your village know about it. Islam is a global religion. So don't bring your personal problems to a global religion when Islam is free from your cultural practices, even if they're done in the name of Islam. So when I try to show these things, I try to show you that Islam is a religion that has scholars from Asia to Europe to Africa to the Middle East. It's not a little particular village in one part of the world. So I'm trying to show you the extent of where Islam goes. Islam is not your little thing and your little family problem you're going to bring to a Muslim who's trying to talk to you guys. Okay? So what I'm trying to show you is the breadth of Islam. Now, for those of you who are studying STEM subjects, you might have heard of Khwarizmi. Al-Khwarizmi is the father of algebra and is the father of modern day accounting as well. He developed the double entry method of bookkeeping in thingy. And he was also a scholar of Shafi'i. He was also a Shafi'i scholar from Iran. Now, if I say to Iran, is Iran a Shi'i country, or is it a Shi'i country or Sunni country? Shia. It's a Shi'i country, and it's been Shi'i for about 400 years. Iran for the first 1,000 years of its existence was a Sunni Shafi'i country. And all the great scholars that wrote on Shafi'i law, Shafi'i fiqh, all came from Iran. So, Al-Ghazali, Imam Al-Haramain, Imam Al-Marwazi, Imam Al-Razi, whatever you hear these names, Razi, those are all places in Iran. Iran was a Sunni country. What ended up happening is the Safavids came over, took over, called the Safavids. They took over around the year 900 and something, and then they forcibly turned the population Shi'i. So they killed and murdered the Shafi'i scholars, pushed them out. Those scholars had to flee then into Egypt and other areas, and then after that they went through through that process. They destroyed any remnants of Shafi'i, Shafi'i scholarship or anything like that, or even just the native population that was Shafi'i Sunni, right? Whereas Persia was a great, in Persia there was a lot of Islamic scholarship there, and this is an example of mathematics written by Imam Al-Khwarizmi, okay? And this, this development of algebra, okay, which was known in Arabic as Ilm al-Jabr, okay, contributed significantly to the development of mathematics in Europe. You see, we don't think about that now. So the reason why I'm not here giving like a talk about how to raise your iman or something, because mashallah, you're going to get a lot of those, inshallah. You're going to go to the masjid and you're going to get a lot of those. And even I speak about those things. But because they're university students, sometimes in terms of your secular education, people know a lot. But in their Islamic education, they might not know that much. I'm trying to broaden your horizons about the extent of what Islam and Muslims achieved. Because unfortunately, what many Muslims believe is that they believe that Muslims are people who have AK-47s, pickup trucks, Toyota pickup trucks, overthrow the government, overthrow the president, and put his body in the boot of the car, and then scream, Allahu Akbar, and then after create another failed state, and the same thing happens again and again. That's what we see when we see Muslims. And this was shown to us in the media. And it got to a point where I thought to myself, I had to sit down and think logically. I said, hold on. When I read about everything that Muslims have contributed to society in the last 1,000 years, in mathematics, in history, in sociology, I haven't put it up here, but has anyone heard about Ibn Khaldun, the father of sociology? Okay, all of these things, why are we never told about that? Why do you never learn that in school? When you learn about Egypt, why are you only told about the ancient Egyptians, like Tutankhamun and stuff? Why are you not spoken? Why do they never speak about the Islamic rule of Egypt or something like that? Why do they never teach you this? And why is it whenever they show Islam, it's you guys are a younger generation, but in the early 2000s it was suicide bombing kind of thing, and militia groups and hostage this and hostage that, and the thing covered face, and cutting heads. Why is this? I thought to myself, this must be done on purpose. It's the only thing to make people think that their religion is backwards, to make them think that there's nothing. Islam is a religion which is not worth practicing, and so on and so forth. But the more you read about your religion and understand your religion and see what Muslims have contributed, and in different parts of the Muslim world, this is now, we're now in Iran. I just showed you Imam Shafi'i, who was from Gaza. I showed you Imam Ibn Rushd, who's from Spain. There's not one area. It's the whole area. There was this, beautiful society of ilm. And you think to yourself, why on earth this is never spoken about? Why do they never teach this? Why is this deliberately covered? When this is the thing this is what Europe took and went further with it. But why are the fathers of these sciences never spoken about? I thought to myself, that has to be done on purpose. There's no other way. Because whenever they show Muslims, it's honor killings, this one being sent back and bundled to their country to marry this person they don't want to marry, this one running away from home, this one doing this. You think to yourself, what's going on here? There's two things are, it's not making any sense, when you think about what Islam has given to the world and what we see today. So then you ask yourself, there must be people who are controlling, and there are people who are controlling the media, who are setting narratives, okay? It's not a fair game. So the question that needs to be asked to students is, why are you studying? Okay? Why are you studying the thing that you're studying today? Are you studying this particular thing to quickly get a job? Or are you studying this particular science to make a difference? Let's say, for example, I'm not sure if there's if there's students here who study medicine, or if Brunel University provides medicine, but let's just say there's medicine, right? What are you going to do with the medicine that you study? Are you going to change the way medicine is studied? Are you going to help Muslims who need your medical care? Are you going to provide something to the Muslim Ummah that we can keep and grow and make prosper, for future generations? Or are you simply going to collect your salary, salamu alaikum, keep it moving? Because that's not how you get remembered. That's not how you leave a legacy. Leaving a legacy means that you go against the grain, author something, write about your experiences as a Muslim in medicine, write about alternative medicine that maybe could help other Muslims in different countries, travel to another place and help others and broaden your horizons. Don't just stay in this kind of 9 to 5 khalas and explore the world. The world's there to be explored. Islam needs to be revived. Go out there and help in the way in which you can. So if you don't know why you're studying, perhaps one should intend to help Islam through their studies. This entails teaching what you've studied to others. I always tell brothers who study, mashallah, strong sciences like yourself, even volunteering, even putting up videos online, YouTube videos, how to get into medical school, how to become a Muslim engineer, how to do X, Y, Z. Because there could be Muslims who come from poor backgrounds, okay, who are wanting to know, can I do this? Can I even achieve something? Or maybe being told in school you can't achieve anything, you can't do anything. But if they see videos or even things from people like yourself, they know I'm a Muslim and I can do it, you can do it. Then by doing that, you can change the perception. You know, you can help the younger generation. So rather than doing something stupid like listening to UK rap and not even pronouncing their word and all that nonsense, they can go and study something properly and help their Muslim brothers, okay? And help their families, become someone that you can rely upon. Not just doing the kind of nonsense and balawi that we see today, okay? Encourage others to learn in order to lift Muslims out of ignorance in your own area of speciality. So, helping others learn their religion. Help others get into, you know, like I said, this, what do you call it, this, these areas of study. Afwan brothers, if we could just pay a bit of attention. I know that obviously there's other things, more technical things, but please, okay. And also, and contribute to disseminating information, because what you have to understand is, from a Muslim paradigm, in a Muslim society, where was the place that people used to learn? People used to learn in the masajid, primarily, in the mosques, right? People would learn in the masajid. You go to a scholar, the sheikh will teach you how to read, teach you basic Quran, and then you would learn more from there, right? This society was slightly different. This society was a feudal society. The peasants never knew how to read or write and worked on the farms all day. And then the people above that, the knights and barons and so on and so forth, owned the land. And then you had the aristocracy, then you had the royal family, okay? So people at the bottom stayed at the bottom, and knowledge was kept with a certain class. Within Islam, we never had that. With the Muslims, everyone was allowed to learn. Everyone was free to come to the masjid. And that's why in the city of Qurtuba in Andalus, in the year 1000 AD, okay? So that's about the year 400 after the Hijrah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It was the only city in the Muslim world, or in Europe, shall I say, it was the only city that had eradicated, eradicated illiteracy. Because the masajid were open and everyone could learn. And that's how it was in Muslim societies. So this concept of putting knowledge behind the paywall and making it exclusive for some people and, you know, cancelling others out and not allowing them to learn is not something we have as Muslims. So what we should do is we should invite others to learn about what you're doing. Tell people, you know, okay, I'm studying medicine, how can I get other brothers to study it? And just bring, you know, by doing that, you lift people out of poverty, you lift people out of the situation that they're in, you inspire others. Don't just say, oh, khalas, I can't do anything, who am I? You're somebody that can, what do you call it, that can make a difference. And that's why there's a saying in Arabic, وَكَمْ مِنْ طَالِبٍ فَاقَ أُسْتَاذَهُ. How many students become even better than their teachers? How many students of the religion end up doing greater things than what they share? So you might, by calling others to learn, to either learn the Sharia, to learn fiqh, to learn medicine, to learn engineering, by you doing that, you could actually help someone or inspire someone to become a great scholar of Islam or a scholar of what they want to get into. It's a huge thing, and what ends up happening? If you do that, you'll get all of the reward that that person got. Because Prophet ﷺ said, الدال على الخير كفاعله. The person who indicates you to do good is like the person who's doing the good itself. Just by telling someone, you know, over there you give sadaqah. It's like he gave sadaqah because he invited somebody else to go and give sadaqah. So that's one of the things that I wanted to speak about today. Just the importance of knowledge and the contributions that Muslims have given to the areas of knowledge. So inshallah ta'ala, if anybody has any questions, we can open the floor to questions if there's time, if time allows. I don't know if time does allow. And if it does allow, tafaddalu. People can ask questions on this topic or, you know, other kind of things. Tafaddalu, yes.
Yeah, there's a question that came on the live stream.
Tafaddalu.
Yeah, someone was asking, where can they start with gaining Islamic knowledge? Is there any specific resources that you would recommend?
There's many resources. So I would divide this question into two. I would say, when it comes to studying Islamic knowledge, there's two. I would say the question needs to be divided into two kind of subcategories. The first category is a person who wants to understand just the basics of his religion. If you're trying to learn just the basics of your religion, then there's many classes online and so on and so forth, right? that a person can kind of pursue. There's books that you can read. So, for example, I would advise the books that you would read in the very beginning, books about Allah, how to worship Allah properly, how to commit shirk and so on and so forth. So a very good book is, for example, Fundamentals of Tawheed by Bilal Phillips. Very good book, for example. Okay, and other books. And then you might learn another book in fiqh and so on and so forth, right? So that's one area. I'll say get that book. That book will teach you, is it halal to read horoscopes? Is it halal to go to fortune tellers? Is it halal to, those things which are very, very important issues, because you can fall into worshipping other than Allah when you go to these, these kinds of people. So things that clean your creed. Now the second group is the group of people who actually want to learn Islam properly, where they don't want to just kind of brush up on their area of Islam, but they actually want to embark on seeking Islamic knowledge. If a person's in the second category, then I would advise them to try to embark on studying the Arabic language, because if you want to understand Islam in any depth, like real depth, you're going to have to learn the Arabic language. The Arabic language can be you can get a basic grasp of the Arabic language, writing, reading and listening in about 2 years, which is not a long time. Okay, if you're really committed, and I'm talking about in the UK paradigm. If you go abroad to other countries, you can still learn Arabic. If you go to Egypt or here or there. So I'll say do that, and then after that you by doing that and learning the Arabic language, you'll then already come across the books of how to seek ilm. A good book is Ornaments or the Etiquettes of Seeking Knowledge, which you can buy in English. Etiquettes of Seeking Knowledge by a sheikh called Sheikh Bakr Abu Zaid. Well-known book. It's about £7 or £8 by Hidayah Publishing. It's a very, very good book. It talks about how to seek knowledge. It's a sheikh from Saudi who died almost 20 years ago. Very, 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 very good. Very, very good book. And then obviously different countries have different ways of seeking knowledge. So I'll say you can do that, inshallah. Do you have any other questions? Yes? Yeah, go ahead.
How do you balance between doing, let's say, the secular knowledge and the Islamic knowledge?
I'm not sure there can be a balance. You have to just do one or the other, and then I'll do one at one point and do one at other. I don't think you can balance anything. I think you just have to put the effort in and ask Allah to give tawfiq. But I don't think that there can be balance. I think trying to sometimes balance means, how can I do something without sacrifice? But you have to sacrifice. So if you're going to study Islamic studies properly, that means that you might sacrifice some of your time, whether that's sleep or something else. So balancing, if you want to do like a class once a week, then there's not really any kind of time management needed. But that's something that's at the discretion of the individual. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. It's at the discretion of the individual. So some people might have more time, some people might have less time. So it just depends. But I would say do an amount that is feasible. Don't do something which is unrealistic. Don't study something which is unrealistic. So I know of a brother who studied in the University of Southampton and was trying to do like this kind of online fiqh degree at the same time, and it just wasn't going to work. So you have to do something which is feasible, inshallah. I think the brother at the end had a question. Did you have a question? Yeah, I think
yes, quick one, so do you have any advice for us on how to motivate ourselves in order to reach that sort of outstanding level that you talked about, not just being...
Wallahi, yes. So now this is on the area of being outstanding in your own field. It doesn't have to necessarily be like a student or not. It can be a sheikh. You can apply it, but if you need motivation, then it's already a problem. So we're not looking for motivation. Motivation, you can have motivation to do something. Go outside and have eat a kebab and have a full stomach, and then your motivation is gone. So it's not motivation that's going to keep you going. You need more than motivation. You need to have, as the ulama say, ulul himma, high aspirations, high lofty aspirations. Okay. So you need to think about, okay, do you know what? I want to get a PhD, and with that PhD, I want to do X, Y, Z, and that's going to help such and such Muslims. Let me give you an example, right? Who here has heard of the Human Development Index? Anyone heard of that? The Human Development. Who's written? It's written by Muslims. That is written by a Muslim. You'll never know. That's what I say. You have to read up. The Human Development Index was written by, I think it was an Indian or Pakistani Muslim man. He died 20 years ago. And what he did was he used some formulas or formulae. Study maths, okay? Don't shoot the method. To look at developed countries or formulae, developed countries and the human development, the level of human development. Meaning that, look, if you come from this is what he looked at, statistically speaking. If you come from a well-to-do country that has a good economy, no warfare, then you're going to find that the people read, the people, exercise. Don't look at me. The people do. I used to go to the gym back in the day. That's a whole other issue. So I even tried it, okay? Because I used to bang weights. Anyway, that's another time, another life, more than a decade ago. So, what do you call it? People read whatever. People are not always on the phone talking to their family. If you notice, if you've got aunties from back home, everyone's on the phone because no one's got anything to do. The country there's no roads, there's wars. So what's that? Everyone's calling each other. Oh, this one country said this. People from developed countries don't do that. People kind of research, learn, have hobbies. The poorer the country, the less of that. The less of that development. So people, look at, for example, ChatGPT. It wasn't made in, and I'm not trying to, it wasn't produced in Malawi kind of thing. The Apple, the iPhone was not produced in, Zimbabwe kind of, because the Human Development Index is lower. People are trying to survive. If I'm surviving, I'm trying to literally get food on the table today. I can't think about a phone and an iPhone and silicon and you can't have. So you need to have a base level of development in order to improve your situation. So even as Muslims, if we want to improve our situation, in order for us to help ourselves, in order for us to try to help others, we have to help ourselves. So what I'm trying to say is that you have to have lofty aspirations. Now that index was created by a Muslim. The whole world uses that. Imagine if you as a practicing Muslim created something that the whole world helps. That itself can make people come into Islam. If people read your biography and they read, why did such and such create such and such? Oh, I did it so I can change. I need kada because Allah told me to do so, and the Quran said this. And then before you know it, you're guiding people to Islam. So you'll be very, very surprised at where your what do you call it? Where your efforts take you. But you need more than motivation. It has to have a burning desire to do something. And sometimes you can only do that when you find out what you like. When you find out not what you're good at, not necessarily what you're good at, but what's that thing that's in your heart that you have a burning desire to want to do. It might not be the degree that you're doing now. It might be something else. Okay? So you have to find it. And some people go their entire life without finding that. And that's a disappointment. And at the end of their life, they say, I wish I'd done this and not that. So look at that particular thing. For some people, it might be business, right? You've got all these now on YouTube, the new thing now, the new algorithm is like these Muslim business gurus now. Everyone talking to you about business, how to do this, how to sell a course, how to do X, Y, Z, right? But even though, some of them might be selling, wolf tickets, as they call them, meaning hope tickets, but for the people who are actually bent on trying to learn business and teach other Muslim business, there's so many benefits. The first benefit of, for example, teaching Muslims how to be more entrepreneurial is you allow them to have an income stream which allows them to perform their religion without making a compromise. See? Because if you're economically independent, you don't need to compromise your faith on doing things like going to the Christmas party at work or doing this or doing that, because you're free. So rather than looking at it as, you're just teaching people to be, to love the dunya, no. You're teaching people how to be economically free. So even though this person, he's not teaching you how to pray, he's not teaching you how to read Quran, but he's teaching you a skill that even the Prophet ﷺ spoke about, that Allah puts barakah in business. Now, if you're good at business, that helps the Muslims. Why? Because you're able to employ Muslims. You're able to allow Muslims to practice their religion freely in the workplace. You're able to pay zakat to Muslims. That helps Muslims. So look at the benefits that you're having now. if you look at the, you know, the kind of, if you're kind of looking at, you know, the optimum benefit a person can have if they are good at what they do. Okay? And as I say in Arabic, فَاقِدُ الشَّيْء لَا يُعْطِي. Someone that has nothing, or who has achieved nothing, has nothing to give in the first place. So, excuse me, on that topic, I will say that it's more than motivation. It's a burning desire to want to do something. And as Imam Shafi'i, he said, بِقَدِّرِ الْكَدِّ تُكْتَسَبُ الْمَعَالِي فَمَنْ طَلَبُ الْعُلَى سَهِرَ اللَّيَالِي. يعني, depending on how much you want something is how far you will go, okay? Or depending on how much work you put into something is how far you will reach. بِقَدِّرِ الْكَدِّ, on the amount of hard work you put in, تُكْتَسَبُ الْمَعَالِي is where you'll get, it's how high you'll get. فَمَنْ طَلَبَ الْعُلَى سَهِرَ اللَّيَالِي. Whoever wants to get to the top of their field and whatever they're doing, they're going to stay up all night studying, reading, whatever. And then he said, وَمَنْ رَامَ الْعِزَّ مِنْ غَيْرِ كَدٍّ أَضَاءَ الْعُمْرَهُ فِي طَلَبِ الْمُحَالِ. And whoever wants izzah, glory, without any hard work, أَضَاءَ الْعُمْرَهُ فِي طَلَبِ الْمُحَالِ. He's wasted his life in trying to do something which is impossible. Okay, reaching the status of becoming something great can only come with hard work. You can't come with laziness. تَرُومُ الْعِزَّةِ ثُمَّ تَنَامُ لَيْلًا. You want glory, but you sleep at night. يَغُوصُ الْبَحْرَ مَنْ طَلَبَ اللَّآلِ. Even the person that wants some corals and pearls in the sea, he has to dive into the sea, in the sea to get it. You can't just go over fishing net and try to get pearls and corals. You've got to dive into the sea to get it. So it comes down to the jiddiyah of the person, the seriousness of the person. So that's what I'll say, inshallah ta'ala. Yes, Akhi.
Yeah, there's another question from the live. So it says, a lot of people confuse the four school of thoughts with their religion by saying, I'm a Muslim, not following any of that. So the question is, how do you clarify that to someone in a proper manner?
In terms of what way, sorry? Because the question is, it's not that clear, but...
It's just how it came. So if they clarify, I'll tell you.
So what people need to understand about the schools of thought is, there's not just four schools of thought in Islam. There's many schools of thought. The schools of thought that we have are the schools of thought that survive. Now, when we say school of thought and the word madhab means, what is a madhab, a school of thought? A madhab is simply this. It's a collection of viewpoints from a particular scholar on issues pertaining to the religion. That's all it is. So, Sufyan al-Thawri had a madhab. Imam al-Tabari had a madhab, okay? Hundreds of ulama had madahib. But the madahib that have survived till this day are the four madahib, because their students wrote the most. They're prolific students. So the students of Abu Hanifa, for example, the two Abu Yusuf and Muhammad al-Shaybani, they were prolific scholars in their own right. So because of that, they wrote down the rulings of Abu Hanifa. Meaning, because Abu Hanifa was the leading scholar in Iraq at that time, they would go to Abu Hanifa to ask him, what's your viewpoint on this? Now, why did they ask Abu Hanifa those questions? Because when Islam was growing and different people were entering into Islam, those people didn't have the luxury of being next to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had passed away. So now new things are occurring, and Islam is entering a new domain, and people are witnessing things that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam never saw. So, for example, one of the things they speak about in the Hanafi method, for example, is Fatiha accepted in a language other than Arabic? The reason why they're asking that question is because many of the people in those other countries who were coming into, Islam, were people that spoke Persian, Farsi, okay? So because of that, they had to ask this question. Now, in the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, everyone spoke Arabic. So there was no need to ask the Prophet a question like that, because it wasn't conceptualized that someone doesn't speak Arabic. Everyone speaks Arabic. So they ended up asking these imams, these scholars, on many different issues that weren't present, and then people collected those views. And when Imam Abu Hanifa, for example, said his opinion on a matter, and this extends to all of them, Malik, Shafi'i, Ahmed. Not only would he say his opinion, he would say why he's saying it. So he'll say, I'm saying this because Allah said such and such. And or if there's no dalil, i.e. clear dalil, he would use legal reasoning. Meaning he would make an analogy between something that already exists in the Sharia, and then after he would link it to the question that's being asked today. People end up writing down these rulings and analysing these rulings, and then they became schools. And that's the same thing for Shafi'i, Malik, Ahmed, right? The different schools of thought. And so they're ways of studying their religion. So you study a madhab, or a person will study a madhab when they want to understand fiqh. So they'll study it in Arabic language, they'll study the Arabic language, they'll study the madhab, and then you'll study the dalil, meaning the evidence as to why the school says such and such, and then you'll study, if there's no evidence, like I said, the legal reasoning, the illah as to why or the reason why that person is saying that particular thing. What I'm trying to say is that, okay, the madhab was a school, it's not the religion itself. The madhab doesn't have everything. That's why you have some scholars of fiqh, and they have scholars of hadith, for example. A hadith scholar might differ with a scholar of fiqh in certain matters because perhaps he's read more ahadith than the fiqh scholar. So when the fiqh scholar gives a ruling, he may give a ruling based on the madhab, but he might not know that his madhab might be in contravention to what the Prophet said in another hadith. So it's always a balancing act. The madhab helps you understand Islamic law, Islamic fiqh, but it's not the religion in and of itself. So for example, when I teach courses, Islamic courses, one of the questions I will get is, what madhab is this? What madhab is this? Islam is beyond the madhab. Yes, the madhab is important, but it's not what madhab. It's not the madhab is everything. The madhab doesn't contain everything. Yeah. And the madhab is used when you're studying it in Arabic. If you're teaching basic Islam, that doesn't need to know the madhab. It's very basic when you teach them how to pray, how to recite Surah Al-Fatiha, how to do ruku', how to do sujood, how to... But you have to understand, the madhab is for people that are trying to study the legal, they're trying to study the legal code, okay? Especially in a country like the UK where there's different Muslims. If people want to study a madhab, they can, But yeah, the madhab is a way of studying Islamic law. It's a way of studying Islamic law. Okay, you study fiqh through the madhab. But the madhab can sometimes be wrong, and when the madhab is in clear contradiction to the Quran and Sunnah, then you go with the Quran and Sunnah. You're not going to follow the madhab when Allah and His Messenger said one thing, and you're going to say, no, I'm going to follow a particular shaykh. You always take what Allah and His Messenger said. Okay? So there's extremely, you've got some people that are extremely following the madhab, and then you've got people that are extremely not following any madhab at all. And say anything that comes from the madhab is wrong, which is not true. Which is not true, inshallah. So remember that the madhab is a mode of studying. It's not Islam in and of itself. They're collections of teachings of scholars that have been passed down intergenerationally, and the four that remain are the four most prominent because they had the most prominent students who wrote and authored and so on and so forth. Now, do we have any more questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I know Islam is a very beautiful knowledge. Alhamdulillah, they're all Muslims. So I said that Islam is a very beautiful religion. Alhamdulillah, all Muslims. I just want to know, the thing is, when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he passed away, so after how many years approximately, did great scholars compile different hadith that are all authentic?
So, after the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam died, the books of fiqh, the books of hadith, were compiled in the first 100 years after the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away. That was the first 100 years, okay? But the current books that we have were written about 100 to 200 years after the Prophet ﷺ died. But what you have to understand is the books of hadith are developed over a transmission system. So that's called, there's a mode of transmission, meaning you're following something called the isnad method, the isnad system. So the isnad system is basically, let's say the Prophet ﷺ died. Okay, the Prophet ﷺ dies, right? After that, the companions are still alive. The companions of the Prophet are still alive, right? Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali, those are the main companions. You have the many companions. They have students known as the Tabi'een. The Tabi'een, okay, are the teachers of Imam Abu Hanifa, Malik, and things like this, right? At that particular time, around the year 150, people start writing down ahadith. But because Islam was written down, was passed on through oral transmission, everyone knew what sheikh they heard that particular saying of the Prophet from. Yes.
Sorry, just to clarify, you mean 150 years after Hijri or?
After Hijrah. And even before that. Look, listen, if you want to know about this in detail, write down this sheikh. His name is Dr. Wallahi, illustrious scholar of hadith. He's from India, but he got a Saudi citizenship. He taught in the University of Riyadh. Dr. Muhammad Mustafa Al-A'zami. Something like that. Muhammad M.M. Azami. M. Azami. Are you writing that down? Write it down. M.M. Azami. Because he refuted an Orientalist who tried to rebuttal the hadith. M.M. A.Z.A.M.I. Muhammad Mustafa Azami. Okay.
So
Muhammad or just write M.M. Azami. A.M.M.A.Z.A.M.I. Hadith. His books on hadith are the best. Okay, because he's got a book called Studies in Early Hadith Literature. One of the best books of hadith in English, to the extent that it's better than some books in Arabic on hadith. That's how good the book is. And that book has been out of print. And when the book was in print, I had no money. When I started getting some money, the book's out of print. Now you cannot find Studies in Early Hadith Literature. You cannot find that book. But if you can find it, the used version, that book, he debate. Look, listen. So you have to understand something about the hadith issue, right? You've got people called Orientalists, Orientalists try to put holes into the religion. So what they try to say is that the hadith system is invented, that the people invented these hadith, and scholars were lying, and that there was a huge mass collusion. There was all the scholars of hadith conspired to create their own hadith on what the Prophet said, basically. So Muhammad Mustafa Al-A'zami, and other than him, broke down the topic, and his thesis, I think it's his PhD thesis from Oxford University, basically, broke down this kind of thing, this argument. And one of the head proponents of this viewpoint was a ghastly man known as Joseph Schacht. Even the name sounds Joseph Schacht, right? Who was an Orientalist, learned Arabic, and tried to refute Islam, said Islam is false and they're all lies and so on and so forth, in short, right? So the book that refutes this is called Muhammad Mustafa Al-A'zami, or Mustafa Muhammad Al-A'zami and it's called a response or something like that of Muhammadan jurisprudence, basically. Muhammadan jurisprudence. If you just write M.M. A'zami, it's a red book. It's called On Muhammadan Jurisprudence, where this man, Joseph Schacht, tried to say that the scholars of hadith made it all up and so on and so forth, right? And he goes back to the earliest sources of books of hadith. Now, what's ajib is that some of these early books of hadith are not found. Meaning that if you listen to maybe what Imam Malik says, or Imam Bukhari, they will mention books of hadith that came before them, but you can't find them anymore, meaning they've been lost, right? So what the Orientalists will say is, these fictitious books that don't exist, that these scholars write about. And what's happening every single day? Just about, a month ago, they found one of the old books. A book that is maybe written less than 100 years after the Prophet ﷺ passed away. Okay? On Maghazi, on the Muslim expeditions, right? And it speaks about hadith as well. So these books are being found. But they are in these libraries and they're manuscripts. But these old books existed, right? So write down Mustafa Al-A'zami Kada. Yeah, and that's the book. This book, early books, and I can't read PDFs because it's just my eyes start hurting. But if you can firm it, mashallah, read it. It goes to the earliest books of hadith, okay? And it's one of the, if not, I'll say, the best book of hadith in English. He ended up dying in 2017 in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. He ended up just teaching there. They gave him, he won the King Faisal Prize, something like that. An illustrious scholar of hadith. Wallahi al-azim, a great scholar of hadith. And his English is so pristine. So pristine. And he talks about the academic inconsistencies of many of these kind of places. In the sense where there was another sheikh who wanted to talk about this issue, and the University of London prevented him from doing a PhD about Joseph Shach. They said, no, you can't do it because we view Joseph Shach's view to be correct, and Khalas there's no disputing. And where is the academic freedom? Why is there no academic freedom? Which shows you that there is a bias in the whole thing. Have we got any other questions, inshallah? So I don't want to keep you guys here for too long. I know that people are probably, ready to wrap it up. I can speak all night, so obviously, first of all, I should say that, or in Arabic they say, خَيْرُ كَلَامَ مَا قَلَّ وَدَلَّ. The best speech is the best speech which is precise and straight to the point. But me, I can speak you all night. I can read till midnight. Well, I know you. So you have to stop me, otherwise I'm just going to carry on. So if we have any more questions, one or two, we can ask. But if we're done, okay, we'll leave it here, inshallah. Subhanaka Allahumma bihamdik.